it was such an exciting opportunity for me. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm sure you must be very occupied, but thank you for giving me this opportunity.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Great,
So,
great.
yeah, you have some questions, so go ahead
Yes,
and start.
yes. Tanya must have like told you a little bit about me. So, basically I belong to India, and in addition to practicing homeopathy, which is, a pretty popular kind of, contemporary alternative, system of healing, I also practice pran chikitsa. Now, pran chikitsa is basically, an Indian word for energy healing, right?
Mm.
Pran stands for the vital force that, we work upon, and chikitsa means treatment. So I just felt, as soon as I saw your website, I saw your social media, I was pretty amazed that, there is a like there's a version of the same kind of energy healing being practiced on on the other side of the world, right? But yes, accordingly, I did have, like some questions. Just I probably want to start out with the questions that have to do with the fact that energy healing uh, is not easily acceptable, even currently in the society, in in the community around us, right? So ma'am, I basically wanted to understand, how do you deal with people when they come to you with a lot of skepticism, or when they're really unfamiliar with the with this system? uh, Maybe how do you introduce Jinshin to them without overwhelming them, without repulsing them, or without alienating them? That would be my first question.
So first of all, you're saying if they come to me. So that's
Yes.
the big first step. And that's also, I think, your last question. I think it is very important that people come to me or to you, because with our kind of work, there is some sort of self-responsibility that they need to take, right? We're not going to give them a pill that resolves the symptom and that's it. There's a
Right.
relationship to lifestyle, and there's also a self-care practice that's very important. We call
Right.
it self-help. So I think that is understood. I don't know if it's the same in India, that people come because they're pushed to go, or like here, people usually come to me when in a way they're ready.
Okay, okay. Usually, ma'am, I do get those kind of people as well, that, when they're ready, but sometimes, some person has been brought here because, their friend has probably recommended, and they thought, okay, nothing is working. Let's give this kind of therapy a try as well. Right.
Mm.
And you can see, you can sense a skepticism, in their kind of aura, in their energy, the way they're talking to you. So
Mm.
that is why. But I do understand, ma'am. I think
Well,
this is.
one of the most important things is that to know and to remember that we are just facilitators.
Mm,
We cannot make the person believe, or if they're skeptical, make them ready or nothing like that. When we work with energy, we are facilitators. And when we place our hands, we use them as jumper cables. So not me giving my energy or taking energy. And I think with the medicine that you practice, probably to have the same approach is very powerful. So it's not you wanting to convince them or you needing to convince them. This round may not be the time for them, and then maybe they'll come back in 2 years or 3 years. That's very possible.
Right. So this was actually one of the questions, ma'am. So you were saying you do believe that people come to you, that this kind of energy healing, it kind of calls upon people when they are ready. And, there is hardly anything we can do as practitioners, to draw them in. It's more about they'll just come, when they're ready, when their energy is ready to, receive something like this.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Great, ma'am. I
That's a
just, I
big,
think,
big lesson. That's a big one.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Great.
That was my teacher. That was her
Okay.
first lesson to me. Don't get
Uh,
anybody to come to you. You wait till they come. And even today, even though with the social media, I reach out to a lot of people, people still ultimately come to me. I don't get them to come. It doesn't work.
That way. Okay, understood. Ma'am, I think I've gotten a little bit, I've gotten very curious. You've used a very specific kind of language. You just use, by saying that our hands work as, kind of cables, through which, we kind of transmit our energies. That's how this, this system works. So, are there maybe any other metaphors or any other examples that you use a lot when, either you are teaching your students, or maybe when you're talking to patients and helping them understand what Jinshin is?
Mhm. Uh, well, I think it is a good metaphor because when the battery of a car is dead and you apply jumper cables, it's being revitalized and it kind of is the spark. So that is the same with our hands. When we apply them, the energy starts moving. So maybe for your generation, it's easier to understand about, broadband, and there is a Wi-Fi. And then when we
Right,
have a modem and you can connect, that's when
right.
you start to download the information. So it's very similar to that. So it's very important to understand that we are not a source of energy, but that we connect to source energy so that we can be that jumper cable or that Wi-Fi connection or that modem, let's say, so to speak. So there's nothing to do. All you need to do is plug it in and it goes, or not even plug it in, you know? So I
Right,
don't know if
right.
it makes more sense to you.
It does, ma'am. I think, this kind of language really speaks to people of my generation. Absolutely. Great. So, ma'am, I think this was, these were a couple of questions I had on, the receptiveness that, people have towards our healing system. Now, a couple of more foundational questions. So, when I started learning homeopathy, one of the first things that I was taught by my guru was, think about, what are the key qualities that you must have as a homeopathic practitioner. Develop those qualities, and then only you are bound to, become a successful homeopathic practitioner. Just want to take this opportunity. Are there any key qualities that, you think, maybe for a Jinshin practitioner or for any, energy healer, they must develop over time? Are there any key qualities other than obviously, proficiency in their own system, but are there any key qualities that you'd like to maybe tell me about?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Even the name Jinshin Jitsu or the art of Jinshin, it's an art. So even though there's a vast technique behind it, and also in homeopathy you study it, when we understand all the technique, we can let go and then we use also our intuition and connect to the patient to see what they use, because I'm sure not every homeopathic remedy is good for every symptom. You look at the whole person. And so that's
Right.
where the art comes in. And that's where, as practitioners, trusting what we know, our knowledge, and then also trusting our intuition so that we can connect to the person. I think that's really important.
It's really important. Great, 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 ma'am. And I mean, obviously, these are qualities that we develop over time. Anything that you'd have for somebody, somebody who's like a beginner, like me. I'm just like 6 months, 8 months into my practice. If you could go back to your younger self, what are a couple of just teachings that you would give her right away? That okay, please inculcate this right at the beginning of your practice because
Mm.
it's going to help you, for the rest of your practice.
Are you also practicing hands-on or hands-on healing, or are you just practicing homeopathy?
I'm practicing both, ma'am. I am practicing both, but that's what I'm saying, that people are far more receptive to homeopathy and they're a little bit skeptical to, the hands-on healing.
Because
Yeah.
you can take something for homeopathy, you can take something and then they
Right.
think it's going to do something. So in a sense, of course, it works, well, it works nicely together.
Yeah.
But if you can take something in, I think that takes away maybe a little bit of the responsibility. But I think, as far as your question, I think once you place your hand, we have to trust that the energy will move in the body, and it will move. When we place our hands and when we allow ourselves to get into the breath and connect to this universal energy, the energy in the person's body will begin to move also. Sometimes we need to remind them also to breathe, but with the Jin Shin, it happens automatically. So it's not always at all that I remind people. So does that make sense to you, or?
Yes, ma'am. It actually does, kind of make sense to me because, as you're saying, like remind them to breathe and all of that, to trust that the energy will eventually, act on its own. Because sometimes you start to doubt, especially when the progress is very slow. The patient's body and mind responds very slowly. You start losing that trust. You start doubting yourself that, oh, am I doing something wrong? But
Yeah.
you really have to trust. That's very important. Thank you for that advice, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
very.
absolutely.
Sometimes even, for me, sometimes it can take 10 or 15 minutes as I'm staying on one place. I'm staying on one place. And I know from my experience that, yes, I'm right, because it's like, oh, you can think, am I doing something wrong, like you say, or am I not doing
Right.
the right thing, what they need? But you can trust that you are, because when you hold an area, it will start to move. But sometimes, particularly when a person is new, it can take even 15 or 20 minutes. But then all of a
Mm.
sudden you will feel it. And then once it's open, because it's this connection for them, for their from their individual energy to source energy.
Right.
And so the first time, maybe only the first time when you work with them, it can take that long.
Ma'am, I think, with you, your experience has been so large, so long that it usually takes you 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes what happens with me is it takes a couple of sessions before there is a significant change, right? And like keeping them there for those couple of sessions, that is, that becomes a challenge. But I'm sure, if I keep on practicing and, I keep on doing things diligently, once I will reach that stage. But yes,
So
it
what do you
takes like.
what do you practice then? Because I also teach, so here my teacher comes out. So what do you practice? Where do you place your hands?
Ma'am, I think our work is largely, on the spinal cord, right?
Mm.
That is where, so for example, if somebody has, certain problems related to the brain, right? So that's where we focus on the cervical plexus, the whole cervical plexus. And, with that, we'll try to heal. If we feel that there's a lack of energy in that organ, that's where we'll try to fill up the energy. And accordingly, depending on what organ or what, area of the body the patient is having trouble in, we will we try to locate the spinal nerve that is basically connected to that organ, and that is, usually where we place our hands on and, try to kind of fill that gap that
Yeah.
we feel, is leading to that disease. So that's what we
Yeah, so
usually do.
that's very good. And if I can make a suggestion, if the area that you work on is already blocked, maybe you
Hmm.
can go below it first.
Oh, okay.
Go below
Great.
the area first, and then above it, and then on,
Okay.
so that it gives it a place to go. Because the area
Ah,
that's
okay.
already
I do think that,
connected.
ma'am. Yes,
So
absolutely.
please work with that, and then let me
Thank
know.
you so much, ma'am. That's a lovely piece of advice, ma'am. Because I've had, especially people, working on laptops so much, they come with a lot of neck pains. That's like, I think largest clientele is of that. They come to me with a lot of neck pain. They're like, oh, we need to work and just solve this problem of ours. And their whole plexus, right? Their whole cervical plexus, it's completely blocked. The nerves, I can feel the energy is completely blocked right there. And it just takes so much time and so many sessions to, ease them, bring them into ease. But I'll try your method now, ma'am. I think I'll try giving them
Very
some.
important to first open up the energy so that they're connected to source. And that is the area at the tailbone, the coccyx and sacrum area. So if you place your hands there first and wait till it starts to open, which can be at the most 15 minutes, then after that you can go and work with the neck. And but then
Oh,
it's already moving, and then it will start sit, because it really, I mean, in my experience, usually doesn't take, a couple of sessions. So you may be able to do that a little faster.
absolutely, ma'am. I will, apply that advice and get back to you on the results. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
Great. So, last question on, being an energy healer and everything. is there, I mean, I've read a little bit about you, how you found this guru, your teacher, and, they've walked you through the entire practice. Are there any teachings that you find yourself keep going back to, any specific teachings that you just find are so relevant, even today, and you just keep on going back to those?
Yes, and that is the breath. The
Oh,
breath,
okay.
breathing. Take a lot of yoga myself, which gets me into the breath. I practice a lot of self-help, the Jin Shin, of course. But it really comes down to being the breath and understanding the breath.
Okay. So, ma'am, you're talking about not just your breath, right? But ensuring that the patient is also breathing in the right manner. All the lessons you must have learned, about your breathing as well as the patient's breathing, or it's just your own, controlling your own breathing, regulating your own breathing.
Yes, for you to feel the energy move, we as practitioners have to be in the breath, which doesn't mean that you have to do big breaths, but it's really getting into our parasympathetic nervous system. That breath, we call it the big breath in Jin
Mm.
Shin. And so, for all the technique and everything, that I've learned, if there's no breath in my body, because
Right.
then I don't feel anything. If I'm not breathing, then I don't feel any energy moving. And if the person is not breathing, the energy cannot move. So it's only with the breath that it can move. And Jin Shin, a session of Jin Shin will bring you there to that place. So you had another question, if they're resistant or slow to respond.
Yes. Yes.
Ultimately, they get into the Jin Shin will bring them there within the session, within the hour.
Okay.
They go to
Okay.
a place where they become the breath.
Understood, ma'am.
Uh,
That's a Yeah, that's really helpful for me. Great, ma'am. I think I'm like almost done with the questions that were related to being an energy healer. Just a couple of questions on clinical practice on how to maneuver energy healing on a day-to-day basis. I think one of the questions you've already answered, that what do you do when the patient's energy is very slow to react. You've already given me a lot of great advice, so I'll apply that and will definitely come back to you. One thing I think at this stage, because I'm a beginner, I feel slightly difficult to discern is, how do you kind of differentiate when a person's problem, bodily problem, is rooted in its physical body, or its emotional, body, or its spiritual body. So
mhm,
do you have any, ma'am, like how are you sensitive to that? How you diagnose that?
mhm. Well, in the Art of Jin Shin, we use the concept of the chest line, the waistline, and the hip line. And we can also feel that in the pulses when we listen to the pulses, chest line,
Right.
waistline, and hip line. And that will tell us where the person, this is the emotional, and then
Right.
the waistline has to do with the mind, or their ego, or their lifestyle, and then the hip line has to do with the physical body. So if the person is not aware, we can listen to their pulses, we can see it in their body, and we can also listen to the words that they are using, the way they're talking. So there's
Right.
definitely a way to with the technique part, really, to know that.
Okay, okay, great. All right, ma'am. Understood. I think, this really explains a lot. Last, I think, question that I'd have is, uh, uh, even in my system of, energy healing, as you are also continuously saying that you've got to work on your own energy, and I think yoga and meditation is the way to go about that. Any quick fixes that you might have, ma'am, or any other techniques that you might have, or any advice that you might have, that beyond doing meditation on a daily basis, or doing yoga on a daily basis, this is one small thing that you can do, probably additionally, to ensure that your energy is just ready, to give to the patient, and to heal the patient. It's very important for us to heal ourselves first, and only then we'll be able to heal somebody. So
Mhm.
anything you might have.
So this would be to prepare myself, right? So
Right.
to prepare even to meet you, I just took a few minutes and lay down for a few minutes and just held the middle of my sternum right here on the heart chakra. And then I placed my other hand here in the neck. And
Right,
by the
ma'am.
way, this is also very nice to give to your clients who have neck pain, just like
Yes.
this.
I saw that on your Instagram as well. Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So really to work on myself and to bring myself back to this place of feeling connected,
Right. Right.
energy.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I think these are all of my questions, that I had. As a
Well,
beginner, it just really helps, hearing from such experienced practitioners how to maneuver, how to go about, because we are still exploring and, there's so much.
yeah.
Thank you so much for your time,
I
ma'am,
just
for
want to
this.
say we're all still exploring, and with
Yeah.
every person, I also am go in with a beginner's mind, because everybody is different, and so I go in completely open. So you are in a very good place. The
Thank
beginners
you, ma'am.
is very important.
Yes. And all the advice that you've given to me, all this discussion, that has, I think, brought me one step closer to being in a greater place. So thank you so much for that.
You're
Thank you.
welcome, and thank you so much for inviting me to
Thank
talk.
you, ma'am. Yes, absolutely. Lovely
Okay,
have, ma'am.
thank you. Bye
All
bye.
right. Yes. Bye, ma'am.